Is Trump ghosting black businesses? We're going to take a look into it. This is What's the 411 News. Let's go.
Welcome back to What's the 411 News, where we bring you news observation, interpretation, and news commentary from an FBA and BGR perspective. Let's get it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to What's the 411 News. And the question today is Donald Trump ghosting black businesses on the low? All right. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it with no further delay. All right. So let's talk about it and let's see what's going on here. Okay. Let's see what's really going on here. So, yes, how the Trump administration cuts in 2025 are disrupting black business growth. All right. So while President Donald Trump has previously promoted support for black entrepreneurship, such as the creation of opportunity zones during his first term, his second term policies are drawing sharp criticism for dismantling the very institutions that historically helped black businesses grow. Okay. So in March 2025, President Trump signed an executive order eliminating two key federal support programs. All right, two federal support programs, two key ones. First one, the Minority Business Development Agency, that's MBDA, the Minority Business Development Agency, and the Community Development Financial Institutions, that's the CDFI Fund, the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund. These agencies were foundational in helping black entrepreneurs access capital, mentorship, and federal contracts. All right. This policy shift, if you will, its impact on real black owned businesses and the ecosystem now at risk, from local banks to national investment funds like the Black Economic Development Fund, BEDF. You guys always tell you guys to write these things down so you can do your own further research. So, real quick, before we go further, the MBDA is Minority Business Development Agency, and the CDFI is the Community Development Financial Institutions. Okay, just so you guys can jot those down. And then we have the Black Economic Development Fund. So again, examining the policy shift, its impact on real black-owned businesses and the ecosystem now at risk, from local banks to national investment funds like, again, the BEDF, which is Black Economic Development Fund. All right, so the MBDA, a federal agency built for minorities or for minority-owned businesses. Now, before we continue, also, I would like to say a lot of times you got to pay attention to the wording. So you're seeing and hearing me say the word minority. So we got to take in consideration if minority means black only, like black Americans only, or does minority mean black, Asian, Latino, so on and so forth, women, right? We got to kind of take that in consideration and think about that and compare it to, or in terms of, when they're talking about Trump dismantling the black-owned businesses. All right. So keep those things in mind. Okay. So the MBDA created to promote the growth of minority-owned businesses was shut down completely. In fiscal year 2020 alone, it helped Black-owned businesses secure $5.27 billion in capital and contracts, representing 66% of the total $8 billion facilitated across 16,000 minority-owned firms. Okay, you can go to mbda.gov. And again, I say be careful of the wording because you have where it says 16,000 minority owned firms. You know, the wording kind of changed from black to minority. All right. Notice the shift. Notice the shift. And I say that because if a lot of people are getting um, in their feelings, if you will, because it's looking like when you see these things, it's almost giving you the impression when it's saying that Trump is dismantling support for black owned businesses. But then when you get to the reading in the article and it's telling you minority owned firms, you know, and it's starting to use the word minority, are they also adding or not, they leaving it out that black people are also not the minority according to certain people's views, right? So you have this situation where, again, like I say, I repeat, you have minority black women, you have minorities as Asians, you have, or women, minority women, but they're trying to put it in a black sense. And it could also be to kind of get people feeling a certain type of way. Or it either means just all black Americans, black owned businesses, right? It's going to be one or the other. All right, so the real world example, check this out. Dover Staffing, an Atlanta-based staffing agency, used MBDA programs. And remember, you guys go to mbda.gov if you want to do your own research, all right, or get further information. So the Dover Staffing, an Atlanta-based staffing agency, used MBDA programs to grow from $1 million to $8 million, okay? And then you had CEO Sanquinetta Dover credits MBDA's coaching and access to capital programs for helping scale her business and create jobs in her community. All right. So she warned that defunding MBDA means future minority businesses. All right. She's even using the word minority businesses, but she's saying that defunding MBDA, means future minority businesses won't receive the guidance or financing needed to scale. Okay. And you have another source here you guys can look up, diversityprofessional.com. All right. So jot these things down as you hear me saying. So you have mbda.gov and you have diversityprofessional.com. Okay. So with the MBDA now shuttered, thousands of black owned businesses see how to play. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing the wordplay. In some instances, they're saying minority businesses, and then in others, they're putting black businesses back in. So it's really to kind of grab certain people's emotions and making you think that maybe Trump is just going against black people. It could be, and it might not be. Okay. So with the MBDA now shuttered, thousands of black owned businesses lose access to mentorship, contracting pathways, and financing tailored to their needs. With MBDA, business centers closed, vital mentorship, technical assistance, and networking programs have been stripped away. CDFI fund, a vital pipeline for underserved entrepreneurs. Now, that's another word, underserved. Okay. So, yeah, I need to peep out the wording. I keep saying this and I'm going to keep repeating that because it's a play with words to get you to think in certain ways. Okay. They'll use underserved, and that's supposed to mean black. They'll say minority, that's supposed to mean black. But then when you hear me read the article, in some instances, they'll say black, and then others, they'll say minority. And in others times, you might hear the word underserved. And again, I have to point out, does the underserved also include Asians, Hispanics, Black Americans, Black immigrants, women, white women, Black women, or does it exclusively mean for just Black Americans, right? You have to make that discernment. That's why I'm pointing these things out, okay? So the CDFI fund, a vital pipeline for underserved entrepreneurs, okay? The CDFI fund supported mission-driven lenders that served businesses often shut out by traditional banks. Certified CDFIs held over 25 billion in small business and micro loans as of 2021. Here's another source, the CDFI fund. So Google that, put CDFI fund, and you'll get more information on what we're talking about here. Black businesses were twice as likely to receive all their requested funding at a CDFI compared to a large bank. In fact, 28% of Black business owners who applied to CDFIs received the full amount requested, a better outcome than from banks, credit unions, or online lenders. All right. And another source is Third Way. So you can look that up. All right. So they're saying the CDFI fund was really doing some good work with funding Black owned businesses. Okay. And again, the CDFI is Community Development Financial Institutions. And they're saying that they was even better, they got better outcomes than the banks, credit unions, or any online lenders when it came to Black businesses, according to them, right? So by eliminating the CDFI fund, the Trump administration has effectively cut off a critical source of affordable capital for thousands of Black-owned firms. So how these cuts undermine the Black Economic Development Fund, the BEDF, how these cuts undermine the Black Economic Development Fund. Okay. So the Black Economic Development Fund, though privately funded, depends on an ecosystem strengthened by federal support. So its success in deploying $250 million to Black led banks, real estate developers, and businesses has been deeply connected to CDFI backed lending and MBDA infrastructure. MBDA provided technical assistance and contract opportunities that help Black owned businesses grow, making them stronger candidates for the Black Economic Development Fund, BEDF investments. Okay. Here's how the Trump administration's elimination of the CDFI fund and MBDA affects the BEDF. Okay. A lot of letters there, but I broke it down what those letters mean. All right. So examples of the BEDF, the Black Economic Development Fund investments now at risk. Okay. So let's take a look at this. You have Black owned banks, $17 million in deposit. Black Economic Development Fund, or BEDF, places deposits in Black owned banks, which rely on CDFI fund grants and low cost capital to extend more loans to Black businesses and homeowners. Okay. So you have Optus Bank, which is Columbia, South Carolina, a 100-year-old institution that received $14 million. 90% of its loans support, here's the word again, minority and women-owned businesses. Now, see, this is why I was breaking that down, because now they're mentioning women-owned businesses. They're not saying whether they're black or white. They're saying women-owned. So the reason, again, I say that is people get in their feelings too quickly, because when you read all of this and you see that, or you might hear a headline and don't look into the articles and what it's saying, you're just thinking Trump is dismantling black-owned businesses by getting rid of these institutions. But is he really getting rid of the institutions because there's too many other minorities? When I mentioned Asian women, because that could be white and black women, Asians, Hispanics, black immigrants could be involved in all of these groups, these institutions, and getting funded for black-owned businesses. And is it possible, I'm asking questions now, is it possible that Trump is dismantling these because he doesn't want all of these other folks to benefit from it, and he wants only maybe black Americans to only benefit from this? So he's going to shut it down, make everybody disappear for a little bit, and then maybe bring back these institutions up, these funding institutions back up, and have new rules? Or is he just flat out don't care about black Americans, period, right? So it's something for you to think about, as opposed to getting into your feelings. And I'm not saying it's one way or the other, but when you look at it a little deeply, is he dismantling this because he doesn't want all these other folks benefiting, because he's trying to get people out of here, right? Out the country. And then maybe once that happens, then, okay, let's bring these institutions back, and only black American businesses will benefit. Black American women owned businesses can benefit. Maybe, maybe not. All right. But it just don't, it's worded in a way to make you think black is all just tearing the black people up. But just by this thing here, when it says, again, I'll read it: Optus Bank, Columbia, South Carolina, a 100-year-old institution that received $14 million, 90% of its loans support there's the word minority. Does that mean black exclusively? And women-owned businesses. Does that mean black women, or does that mean any ethnicity of women? White, Asian, Hispanic, immigrant from other countries, Caribbeans. See? The word play. You got to think about these things when you look into it deeper. All right. So Unity National Bank in Houston, Texas, $3 million investment, Texas only black owned bank. That's Texas, apparently only black owned bank in Texas. Carver Federal Savings Bank, New York, New York, $5 million investment to serve underserved urban communities. Now, does underserved urban communities mean black only, or does it mean black, Jewish, Latino, Asians, Hispanics, Africans from Africa, Caribbeans from the Caribbean that are here? Does it mean that? Are they serving those underserved communities, or are they just strictly going black American? All right. You think about what all I read, even though it says black, might not necessarily be all black. Okay. But it's going to give you the impression that he's just tearing up the black folks. So maybe to sway thoughts and opinions to maybe a new election result, or something down the road. This might be a play for a longer play for the next election. Who knows? Okay. As far as how they wording things. So with the CDFI fund eliminated, these banks lose a critical source of funding. Even with BEDF deposits, they cannot close the lending gap. Okay. Black-owned businesses, $28.6 million. BEDF invested $28.6 million directly into Black-owned businesses. That's the BEDF, some of which relied on CDFI-backed loans to grow before securing BEDF funding. Without CDFI-backed business loans, fewer Black-owned businesses will be ready for the kind of capital that BEDF provides, shrinking the investment pipeline. Okay. Black-led real estate, 166.2 million. All right. So Black-led real estate developers working on community projects often pair BEDF capital with public sector support. Cuts to MBDA and CDFI will reduce financing options and slow community revitalization. Okay, so BEDF portfolio by investment type. Okay, let's look into that. Here's a little chart here showing BEDF investment type. And then you have Black-owned banks, 17 million, Black-owned businesses, 28.6 million, and Black-led real estate. Again, we read these numbers already, 166.2 million. And these BEDF investment types tied to CDFI and MBDA, they're all tied to it. Okay. Now, the impact from Black-owned bank, $17 million from the BEDF investment tied to the CDFI MBDA, loss of CDFI support limits lending power. All right. When it comes to Black-owned businesses, the impact is fewer qualify for capital without MBDA and CDFI preparation. And then you have Black-led real estate. The impact on them is public-private deals harder without federal backing. Okay. Small business development centers, the SBDCs, also are impacted. In January 2025, the Trump administration froze all federal grants and contracts, disrupting operations of local small business development centers, which provide free mentoring, business planning, and financial guidance. In 2023, 317,480 clients were served by the small business development centers nationwide. 47.7% of those clients were minorities, almost about half, okay, including over 150,000 Black entrepreneurs. And you can go to this source, sbdcimpact.org, okay, sbdcimpact.org. Now, in New York State, 41% of businesses supported were minority owned, excuse me. And you can go to SUNY for this source, suny.edu. Okay. Recent funding disruptions have led to reductions in service availability, making it harder for Black-owned businesses to get the support they need to grow. All right. So let's take a look at the final takeaway of this thing here. Okay. So, though opportunity zones from Trump's first term were intended to attract investment into underserved areas, critics argue they often benefited outside investors more than the communities they were meant to serve. In contrast, the MBDA and CDFI fund programs, specifically designed to support and empower Black-owned businesses, have now been completely dismantled. Their elimination removes key federal pathways to capital, mentorship, and contract opportunities that help thousands of Black entrepreneurs grow and scale. Without these public sector supports, fewer Black-owned businesses will qualify for private capital, and economic revitalization in Black communities may slow or even reverse. Okay. Now, that's something for you guys to keep an eye on. Now that this thing has occurred, now that Trump has shut down these programs, pay attention to economic revitalization in Black communities. Start paying attention if they started some revitalization processes in Black communities that you might live in, or people that you know live in, or you might travel to. If things start slowing down or even reversing, like if they was trying to start revitalizing it, but then it's starting to go back to garbage again, keep your eyes on that. All right. That can be a definite indication that something was being done and in the wrong direction at that. So, however, recent commitments to preserve the Small Business Administration, we all know that, the SBA, could allow some essential programs such as SBDCs to continue supporting entrepreneurs. Okay. So going forward, the path to long-term sustainability may require the creation of a robust private sector pipeline for Black-owned businesses, one that cannot be dismantled by shifting administrations, all right? Key thing there, or even targeted by any anti-DEI policy. So they're talking about making sure they have some private sector programs, if you will, for Black-owned businesses that won't be able to be dismantled no matter what administration comes in the government, and can't be targeted by any anti-DEI policies. But we all know when it comes to the DEI, we all know and understand who's benefiting from those the most. Okay. So this looks like a lot of play with words to get Black people more riled up, but not mentioning that some of these programs might, other ethnicities might actually be benefiting or have been benefiting from these programs as well, but they're just throwing Black in there. So this means investing in independent, community-driven systems that foster Black economic growth and resilience, regardless of political winds. Okay. So yeah, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. You guys excuse the dog there. Okay. And you guys let us know what you think about this particular situation going on, about these companies or these programs being dismantled. All right. So put it in the comments and let us know, man. This is What's the 411 News.
Welcome Black to What's the 4. Welcome Black to What's the 411 News, where we bring you news observation, interpretation, and news commentary from an FBA and BGR perspective. Let's get it.